Welcome to this series of 16 Squared, a video by Tangulations. This is a series of short videos where I've grouped together some tangles that work as a reference for tangling. After years of teaching face-to-face, one of my teaching reference tiles just kind of kept coming up quite in a lot of sessions, and I thought this would be a great one to share. So welcome to Background Tangles. I'm going to cover a few tangles and techniques which I have found to be often useful at that finishing off stage of a tile. I'm sure many tanglers out there know that feeling. You need something in the background and you kind of don't want to default to the same old favourite every time. So you're looking for something to make a bit of a statement of some sort but not take over. Maybe to highlight or deepen, to join up or gel together, to complete a tile. But not to take over or distract from the beautifully tangling that you've already done. So join in, follow along and build your own reference of background tangles. If you are interested to download a template to work from, the ones I'm using in these videos, you can do so from the free download section of my website. Or if you want to draw your own template, I'm just working on a series of squares, so they're 4 centimetre or sort of 2-inch squares, or sorry, 1.5-inch squares, and I've got a series of 16 of them that I'm just going to play with. But if you want to just draw your own wee square and put them into a journal, a book, or do your own tiles or bijou tiles or a strip for your own reference, just do whatever works for you. So let's get tangling with some background tangles. So the first one that I want to go through is that lovely tangle, and I'm going to rotate my now big piece of paper because I'm not working on a tile. That lovely wee tangle that I want to play with is called Mist. I'm sure quite a few of you know it, but it's a really useful tangle for just throwing in the background when you don't want to fill a whole space. So with Mist we just do a bit of a wiggly line and then some dots at the end. Imagine that raindrop just flowing down the window pane. They sort of move around and then they slowly disappear and leave that trail once they've trickled down. And you're going to use the technique of auraing just to echo and follow the same line as you're going along, and you can change the length or the distance that you do with each of these, and you'll find that it organically changes as you're going along because you don't quite keep your aura lines exactly in the same way, and you can change the length. But you can see how this can work in a background. So if you've got a really busy tangle down here, you might put the mist lines that have the dots at the nearer the busy end, and the quiet tangle at the top can have the more busier lines near it up here. And I always tend to do some rotation, so I'll move them this way for this way. I'll use the dots that I've got on my template, then I'll rotate my tile and I'll do it the other way, so I can keep an eye on the line that I'm trying to aura in front of me and slowly move away each time. This one's got a bit of a wiggle on. So this is that lovely wee tangle Mist as it heads off, and of course you don't have to do dots, maybe you've got dashes, just ways of thinking of changing tangle and doing a little tangulation of it if you want. Just think about that as you're slowly and deliberately filling those lines in that perhaps you don't want to do it the same way that you've always done it. That lovely tangle Mist. The next one I want to go through is another one. This one's when you've had too much coffee, definitely, because you start your wee line in a corner and you start to fill up the space, and I'm sure tanglers out there will know this one. It's called a maze. And it's like your line has had a little bit too much coffee. The caffeine's going through your system and you just have a little bit of a wiggle on all over the place, trying not to let the line touch itself as you whiz off in a different direction. And you can go off into space and come back again, just trying to keep a bit of a wiggle on. Don't hold your pen too tight, just casually hold the pen and begin to fill up the space with that really wiggly line. If you end up stopping and starting, that's okay. but really we're just trying to fill the space with this wiggly line that just goes around and follows along. Sometimes you might fill a space in a particular deep area, other times you might go round an edge and then fill your way in. We just leave it as a lovely continuous wiggly line as it's going. I hold my pen very lightly, I don't grasp it as I'm doing this one, so it has a sort of little bit of non-control about it, but I always think it's just like a line with too much caffeine inside it, as it figures out until eventually I'll run out of space. A maze. Now for being those a bit more organised, there's always cton. So cton is a lovely wee one, and it's sort of got its reputation because it is a background. It came from a background. And you just start by doing 4 little lines in various places in the section. I'm sure you might know what's coming next. And I do these all in the same way, and then I'll rotate my, I'm going to call it tile because that's just the way I think about it. I'm going to rotate my tile or my piece of paper or my artwork and start to do my 4 lines in different areas in a different direction to the previous ones. And then I might rotate the tile again and continue doing my 4 straight lines. So each time I'm managing to leave my drawing hand in the same spot, and I'm just rotating the paper underneath. Just makes it much easier to think about those deliberate lines as you're doing it, and not, oh, 3, I need to count to 4 there, don't I? And each time I'll just move the paper around a little bit and then do my 4 lines. So I'm not scrawling, I'm just filling up the spaces as I find them to put these 4 lines beside or not beside some existing ones. Sometimes you might even find you've still got space. Then rotate round again and do the same repetitive stroke, deliberate lines in the spaces. And as you begin to fill up, you begin to think, I actually have to fill little triangle spaces now to get my lines in, and that's all fine. As you, oh, just done one there. Just rotate round and pop these spaces. And by the time you're sort of finishing off with this one, we're actually getting quite small, but you can see it's a lovely organised background tangle. Where can I go here? To fill in the background. And when I get to the last little bit, this is sometimes where I might choose which direction I might pop some lines just because of what's already there. So sometimes I can find just little spaces to squeeze a few lines in, but I want to choose the direction. So sometimes at the end of this one I find I'm having to draw them in deliberately in a certain way. So that's lovely. cton. Oh, just when you think you've finished it, you spot some more spaces. Just keep going until you can't fill any more in. cton. Now the next one, it's also sort of a straight line one, but this is one way to draw it as a background tangle. It's a really simple tangle called static. I'm sure you'll know it, but this is just a technique of drawing that's actually quite useful to think about when you're doing background tangles. So static is one where you start and you do a big zigzag, I'm sure you know, across the section that you're trying to fill, and then you do an aura of another zigzag. But when you want to use static in a background, think about changing your scale. And so by doing this, by making it really big instead of a close-up aura, you could really change the look of this tangle. So normally I might choose to do static quite close and do it close all the way, but actually if I change the scale and do some really big auras, I'm still doing the step out and the technique in exactly the same way with this tangle, but you can see how, I'll rotate round so I can follow, changing the scale of a tangle really makes a difference. And the other thing to include, and often used in a background tangle, is a little bit of sparkle. So that just means just having some gaps in various places, just the breaks in your line to produce a little bit of sparkle within. Might throw another one in here just to enhance the gap and the sparkle that I've produced, because it just helps with the background sometimes if you throw in a little bit of sparkle in there. So change the scale. So there's a couple more I want to finish on this row. This one I'm sure is used a lot in the background. You got a little bit of space and you can throw in these beautiful simple wee fescue elements. Ooh, sometimes with a bit of drama, sometimes you might choose to do it without. They can branch from the same point, or they can come from different areas. The nice thing about using this on the tile is that you can throw it around in different areas of the tile, so that you can sort of join different tangles or different areas of a tile, all coming the same, with the same wee fescue. You can be very organized if you like. Sort of have little branches going in straight lines, well, about as straight line as I get. And so it's a really useful one for just sort of throwing all about different areas of a tile to sort of bring it all back in to work together. And then the last little one to mention is a lovely wee tiny background tangle, shouldn't be forgotten about, a wee one called Therefore. And it's just 3 little orbs close together, a bit like that shorthand for Therefore. You can just pop them around all over the tile in the background to just sort of blend different different tangles together, just by doing a little orby type wee thing in various different places. So if you'd have fun, that's video 1 here, and you can join me for video 2 when we move on further down. Happy tangling!